The council hall floated in orbit above the blue and purple swirls of the planet Lithera. Its walls shimmered like liquid crystal, reflecting the pale lights of countless distant stars. Inside, representatives from every corner of the galaxy gathered. Humans were a rare presence in these chambers, their ships often seen as simple but resilient compared to the polished elegance of alien fleets. Yet today, one human stood among them and the room seemed to notice. Captain Elias Ward adjusted his ceremonial uniform nervously. The tight fabric bore the colors of Earth-Space Alliance, and the badge on his chest marked him as the human ambassador. He had served many years as a soldier before being promoted to diplomacy, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for the grandeur of the Lithuan Council. Tall crystalline pillars reached from floor to ceiling, projecting light patterns that danced in rhythm with the whispers of the delegates. Every corner seemed alive, as if the building itself was listening. Elias felt the weight of dozens of eyes on him. Some studied him curiously. Others, like the Tricora delegates, regarded humans with polite suspicion. The humans had only recently proven themselves capable of holding their own in galactic conflicts. Many species still doubted their strength, dismissing them as fragile yet clever creatures. Elias reminded himself to stay calm. His mission was simple in words but delicate in practice: maintain peace and protect Earth's growing alliances. The room hushed as a soft hum echoed through the chamber. A balcony opened above the center dais and a figure appeared. She stepped forward slowly, her movements precise and graceful. Princess Serena of Lithera, youngest daughter of the Emperor, was known across star systems for her beauty and her intellect. Her violet skin glowed faintly in the light and her hair shimmered like silver silk. Yet it was the intelligence in her eyes that captivated everyone. Quick, calculating, and unyielding. Elias felt a jolt he could not explain. He had met many alien leaders, studied their cultures, and learned to anticipate their gestures. But there was something about Serena. Perhaps it was the calm confidence she carried, or the subtle way her gaze seemed to look straight through him. When she descended the steps of the dais, the crowd parted instinctively, giving her space. The hum of the hall softened as she moved, and for a moment, the distant stars outside seemed irrelevant. Elias's heart beat faster than he cared to admit. He straightened his back and stepped forward as protocol required. When he reached the dais, he bowed respectfully. "Princess Serena," he said, keeping his voice steady, "I am honored to represent Earth here today." Serena inclined her head slightly, acknowledging him without a word. Her gaze lingered longer than expected. Elias caught a flicker of recognition, or was it curiosity? He could not tell. The council began its formal proceedings. Speeches were given, agreements proposed, and ancient disputes revisited. Yet Elias found his attention drifting. He could not stop thinking about the princess. There was something familiar about her expression, the way she observed without judgment, as if she could see the truth beneath the surface. Hours passed, and the meeting adjourned for a ceremonial dinner. The human delegation was invited to dine with Lithuan nobles, a gesture meant to show goodwill. As the guests entered the banquet hall, Elias noticed that Serena arrived last, her presence commanding the room. Her guards followed closely, but she moved with an elegance that seemed almost effortless. Elias took his place at the table. Conversations buzzed around him, mostly about trade agreements and military strategy. Yet he could feel Serena's gaze on him, though she spoke with no one. He tried to focus on the discussions, nodding politely and responding when addressed, but a sense of anticipation grew within him, as if something significant was about to happen. The dinner continued, and finally Serena approached him. She stopped at the side of his table, looking down at him with her luminous violet eyes. "Captain Ward," she said softly, her voice melodic but firm. "May I join you for a moment?" Elias rose quickly. "Of course, Princess." He gestured to the empty seat across from him. She sat, and for a few seconds neither spoke. The hum of conversation around them seemed distant. Elias studied her face carefully. It was striking, yet he sensed something more beneath her calm demeanor. Then, suddenly, he noticed a subtle change in her expression. Her eyes widened slightly, her lips parted, and her breath caught just for a moment. Elias frowned. "Princess, is something wrong?" Serena's voice was quiet, almost a whisper. I thought I saw someone once, many years ago. Someone who saved me when I was a child." Her words were hesitant, as if she feared she might be mistaken. Elias's stomach tightened. He had no idea how she could possibly know. "Who saved you?" he asked gently. She shook her head. "I do not know, only that I remember a face, a human face, and when I looked at yours I felt as if I had seen it before." Elias tried to mask the recognition in her words. He had been a soldier during that time, a young man assigned to missions across distant systems. One night, years ago, he had stumbled upon an ambush on a remote planet. A small girl had been captured by raiders. Acting on instinct, he had fought the attackers, rescued the child, and vanished before anyone could discover his identity. He had never expected her to survive long enough to remember him, let alone meet her again years later as a princess. I cannot say for certain," Elias replied carefully. "Many humans have served in the galaxy. Perhaps it was someone else." Serena studied him with a penetrating gaze, her suspicion mixed with hope. "No, I know it was you." She paused. "There is something familiar about your eyes, your expression. Something I cannot explain." Elias felt a mix of relief and unease. He wanted to reassure her, but the truth was complicated. Revealing that he had been her rescuer could jeopardize delicate political relations. Human and Lithuan interactions were tense, and admitting he had acted independently could be seen as a violation of protocol. Yet, at the same time, he felt a strange connection to her, as if their fates had intertwined long before they had met formally. The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of an elder Lithuan counselor. "Princess Serena," the counselor said, his voice tinged with impatience. "You must attend the discussion with the other delegates. The human ambassador has his own obligations." Serena nodded gracefully. "Of course." She rose and gave Elias one last, lingering glance. Her eyes held a mixture of recognition and resolve. "We will speak again," she said softly before leaving. Elias watched her go, a chill running down his spine. There was no doubt in his mind that the princess remembered him. And now, in this galaxy of endless conflicts and fragile alliances, their paths had crossed again. He wondered what this would mean for the future, not only for himself and Serena, but for the humans and Lithuans alike. As the evening drew to a close, Elias returned to his quarters aboard the human embassy ship. He stared out at the planet below, its purple oceans reflecting the distant stars. The memory of the girl he had saved years ago was vivid in his mind. He had never imagined that she would grow to be a princess, ruling a powerful empire, and now by some twist of fate she had found him again. He knew that this encounter would change everything. The galaxy was filled with suspicion and every alliance was fragile. But something deeper stirred within him, a sense that humans, despite being often underestimated, could shape events through courage, ingenuity, and persistence. And perhaps, just perhaps, the bond between him and Serena could become a bridge between their worlds. For the first time in years, Elias allowed himself to feel hope. The stars outside glimmered brightly, as if signaling that the universe had more in store for him than he had ever imagined. Somewhere in the distance, he knew, Princess Serena was thinking the same thoughts, her memory of the human who saved her lingering in her mind like a beacon. And so, the story began, not with war nor politics, but with the quiet recognition of two souls, separated by years and light years, who had found each other once again. The galaxy would soon take notice of what humans could achieve when courage, heart, and determination were combined. The sun rose slowly over the Lithuan capital, its violet and pink rays spilling across the floating city. Towers of crystal and metal glimmered in the light, and the sky traffic hummed gently as ships of all shapes moved through the airways. Princess Serena stood on the balcony of her private chambers, her gaze far away, fixed on the distant horizon where the human embassy ship orbited the planet. She could not stop thinking about him, Captain Elias Ward. The moment she saw his face at the council, something inside her had stirred. Memories long buried rose to the surface, vivid and unshakable. She remembered the night she had been kidnapped, just a child of 10, wandering too far from the palace gardens. She had been terrified as shadowy figures surrounded her, their eyes glinting with greed. And then he had appeared, a human, armored and determined. She could recall the sound of his voice calling out, the precision of his movements and the strength in his hands. He had faced the raiders without hesitation, protecting her as if his life depended on it. She had clung to him, not understanding the danger fully, only knowing that she was safe. And then, almost as suddenly as he had arrived, he was gone, leaving her with nothing but the memory of his courage and the impression of his face. Serena shook her head, trying to focus on the present. That memory, though vivid, had always seemed distant, almost like a dream. But now in the council hall, when she had seen him again, it had been like lightning striking. The human ambassador before her was the same person who had saved her. She knew it in her heart, yet the thought terrified her. She was a princess, heir to the Lithuan Empire, and he was a human, an outsider in her world. Their bond, if it became known, could ignite political tension or worse, be used against her, and yet she could not deny the pull of recognition. Something deeper connected them, a thread that had begun years ago and now pulled insistently, urging her to seek the truth. Meanwhile, aboard the human embassy ship, Elias sat in his quarters, examining the data pad that listed the council's latest proposals. His mind, however, was not on diplomacy. He kept thinking about the princess, her violet eyes, her poised elegance, and the momentary flicker of recognition. He had saved a young Lithuan girl years ago, but he had not expected to see her again. And now, as an ambassador representing humanity, he found himself drawn to her, caught between duty and memory. Elias could still recall the night of the rescue with startling clarity. He had been stationed on the outskirts of a contested system, tasked with reconnaissance. The mercenaries had moved with precision, but they had underestimated him. He had engaged them not for glory or reward, but because he could not leave a child in danger. The young girl had clung to his arm, trembling, and he had promised her safety before disappearing into the darkness, leaving no trace of his identity. He had assumed she would never remember. That time and trauma would erase the memory of a faceless human who had intervened for a brief moment. Yet now, looking back at her in the council hall, he realized that memory had survived. She remembered him even after all these years. The next day, Serena found a reason to speak to Elias again. Under the guise of discussing diplomatic agreements, she requested a private meeting in one of the quiet chambers within the palace. When Elias arrived, he was struck by the serenity of the room. Soft light filtered through translucent walls, casting gentle patterns on the floor. It was a space designed for reflection and careful conversation, a perfect setting for the discussion that neither could avoid. "Captain Ward," Serena began, her tone formal but not cold. "I have something I must ask you, something from long ago." Elias inclined his head. "Of course, Princess. Anything you wish." She took a deep breath. "Do you remember ever being on the outskirts of the Kalira forests 10 years ago? There was an incident. A group of raiders attacked the region." "A child? A girl?" "I was the child." Elias's hand froze on the data pad he had set aside. His breath caught and he leaned forward slightly. I remember," he said carefully, measuring his words. "It was a dangerous mission and I happened to be nearby. I helped." Serena's eyes glimmered with emotion, a mixture of relief and disbelief. "It was you," she whispered. "You saved me. I have remembered your face for all these years, even though I thought it was only a dream. But now, seeing you here, I know it is real." Elias's mind raced. He had never expected to be recognized, let alone confronted by the girl he had saved, now a grown princess. He realized that revealing the truth carried risks. His actions, noble as they had been unsanctioned, and the politics of the Lithuan Empire were intricate and unforgiving. Any misstep could threaten the fragile peace they were trying to maintain. "I am glad you survived," he said finally, his voice steady. "I could not have known that you would become a princess ruling over your people. I only did what any human would do in that situation. I could not let harm come to you." Serena studied him, her expression softening. "But you are not just any human. You are brave and clever, and I never forgot that. I felt your presence even when I was afraid, and now I see that humans can be more than I ever imagined." The two of them shared a quiet moment, their past and present intertwined. Outside the chamber, the city continued its routine, unaware of the small yet significant reunion that was taking place. Neither of them spoke of the potential consequences, focusing instead on the memory that had shaped them both. Over the next few days, Serena observed Elias discreetly. She watched the way he interacted with other diplomats, noting his patience, his willingness to listen, and his quiet determination. Every small gesture reminded her of the man who had saved her. She realized that his courage had not been a one-time act. It was a part of him, inherent in his actions and visible to anyone willing to notice. For Elias, the situation was equally complex. He had always known humans were resourceful and resilient, but seeing the reaction of the Lithuan princess, he began to understand how much humanity's spirit could inspire others. He had acted out of instinct once, and now that same instinct had formed a bridge between two worlds. It was a connection neither politics nor distance could erase. One evening, as they met again under the pretense of reviewing alliance protocols, Serena finally allowed herself to speak openly. "Elias," she said, her voice softer than before, "I have always wondered why you saved me that night. Why would a human risk so much for someone they did not even know?" Elias considered the question. "Because it was the right thing to do," he replied simply. "Because in moments like that, we do not think about politics or consequences. We act according to what we believe is right. Humans, we have the capacity to act with courage even when it is not expected of us." Serena nodded, a thoughtful expression crossing her face. "I see that now, and I see why humans have survived, despite being underestimated by so many species. It is not their strength alone, it is their will, their determination, and their ability to rise above fear." The conversation marked a turning point. Though both remained aware of the delicate political balance surrounding them, they could no longer ignore the bond forming between them. Their past encounter had created a foundation, and now, years later, that foundation was growing stronger. However, the galaxy was never without its dangers. Rumors of unrest in neighboring systems began to reach the Lithuan palace. Some factions viewed the human presence with suspicion, and any hint of favoritism toward Elias could provoke unrest. Serena understood this and resolved to protect the human who had once saved her, not only because of gratitude but because she recognized the value of his courage and character. Elias, too, understood the risks. He was a representative of humanity, but he was also a man with memories and instincts that had guided him through countless dangers. He knew that their connection could become a symbol, either of hope or of political tension, depending on how they navigated the challenges ahead. And so the two of them moved carefully, speaking in private, observing, learning, and understanding one another. Each conversation, each glance reminded them of the moment that had begun it all, the night of the rescue, and the face that had lingered in memory for 10 long years. The galaxy outside continued its endless dance of planets and stars, unaware that a human and a Lithuan princess were quietly shaping the future, not through armies or weapons, but through courage, recognition, and the quiet strength of shared experience. The past had returned, and with it, the promise of something extraordinary, a bridge between worlds, formed by memory, bravery, and the indomitable spirit of humanity. The Lithuan palace was alive with activity. Courtiers moved through its halls, advisors whispered behind closed doors, and the air buzzed with the subtle tension of politics. Princess Serena walked through the corridors with purpose, her mind occupied by thoughts of the human ambassador, Captain Elias Ward. Every encounter with him reminded her of the past, the night he had saved her, and the strange, unbreakable connection that seemed to exist between them. She knew she could not hide her curiosity any longer. She needed the truth. The bond that had begun years ago was not simply a memory. It had become a living thread, linking their lives across time and space. She arranged a private meeting under the guise of discussing diplomatic matters, making certain that no one else could overhear. Elias arrived promptly, his demeanor calm but alert. He had learned quickly to navigate the subtle politics of Lithuania, understanding that every gesture, every word, could be interpreted in multiple ways. Yet he could feel the princess's focus on him, her violet eyes searching for something beyond the ordinary. "Captain Ward," Serena began, her tone measured but firm. "I must ask you something personal. I need to know the truth." Elias studied her carefully, sensing the weight behind her words. "I will answer as best I can, Princess. What is it you wish to know?" She took a deep breath, her gaze steady. "Do you remember me? 10 years ago on Kalira, a group of raiders attacked the outskirts and a young girl was taken. You were the one who saved me, were you not?" Elias's heart skipped a beat. The moment had come, the moment he had both anticipated and feared. He could see the sincerity in her eyes, the memory that had haunted her for years. He nodded slowly. Yes, it was me, he said quietly. I was there by chance and I could not leave you in danger. I did what I could, and then I left before anyone could know who I was. Serena's eyes glistened, a mixture of relief and amazement. I knew it, she whispered. I have remembered your face for all these years, even when I thought it was only a dream. Seeing you again, it is more than I could have imagined. Elias leaned back, trying to measure his words carefully. I never expected to see you again, he admitted. I did not know you would survive or that you would become a princess. I only acted because it was the right thing to do. I had no thought of reward or recognition. Serena reached out, her hand hovering over the table but not touching him. You were brave, she said softly. More than any human I have ever met. That courage stayed with me, even through fear and uncertainty. Hyrik, I felt your presence even when I did not know why. And now I see it clearly. The room seemed to grow quieter around them, the outside world fading into insignificance. For a brief moment, there was no palace, no council, no politics. Only two individuals connected by memory, courage, and trust. Yet the reality of the situation could not be ignored. The Lithuan Empire was vast and its politics were intricate. Any revelation of the princess's personal connection to a human could spark suspicion or hostility. Some nobles might see Elias as a manipulator, using his past heroism to gain influence. Others might question Serena's judgment, suggesting she allowed sentiment to cloud her duties. Serena was aware of these risks. She had spent her life learning to navigate the treacherous waters of court intrigue, and she understood the consequences of her actions. But she also knew that honesty and courage were necessary, even in the face of danger. She could not deny the truth of her memory, nor could she ignore the connection that had survived across time. Elias, too, understood the stakes. He had been trained to assess risk, to anticipate threats, and to act decisively. Yet this situation was unlike any he had faced in his military career. Here, the enemy was not a uniformed force or a hostile weapon. It was suspicion, politics, and the fragile balance of trust between two species. He realized that revealing his past could either strengthen their bond or endanger them both. I am human, Elias said finally, his voice calm. I make mistakes and I act with my own judgment. But I do not act out of malice. I acted that night because it was right, and I would do it again if I had to protect someone in danger. Serena studied him, her expression a mixture of admiration and contemplation. I see that now, she said softly. And that is why I trust you. Not because of your rank or your title or your position, but because of who you are. Humans, you have a strength that is not always recognized. It is not just your courage, but your determination, your will to act even when the odds are against you. Elias felt a quiet warmth at her words, a recognition that went beyond politics or duty. For the first time, he sensed that the bond formed years ago had not been a fleeting moment, but a foundation for something meaningful. Yet even as they spoke, threats began to stir. Whispered rumors of discontent reached the princess from her advisors. Some nobles questioned why she had taken such an interest in a human, suggesting it could compromise her position. Others warned that Elias's presence might be exploited by rivals seeking to undermine the empire. Serena faced a difficult choice. She could deny the connection, conceal the truth, and maintain the appearance of impartiality, or she could acknowledge it, risking political tension but remaining true to herself and the memory of the human who had saved her. She chose the latter, knowing that honesty and courage were more valuable than fear or deception. I will not hide the truth, she declared, her voice steady. He saved my life, and that cannot be forgotten. If my people question my judgment, they must understand that courage and integrity are more important than appearances. Elias is not just a human, he is a hero, and he deserves our respect. Elias nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. He had faced battles across the galaxy, but this was a different kind of challenge. Here the fight was not with weapons, but with perception, politics, and the careful navigation of trust. He realized that this moment, like the night of the rescue years ago, required courage not of the body but of the heart and mind. In the following days, Serena and Elias continued to meet, carefully balancing their private conversations with the demands of diplomacy. Each discussion strengthened their understanding of one another, reinforcing the connection that had begun in a distant forest years ago. They spoke of past events, of challenges overcome, and of the qualities that defined humans and Lithuans alike. Through these meetings, Elias demonstrated the ingenuity and resilience that humans were known for. He shared strategies for resource management, problem-solving, and negotiation, skills that impressed the Lithuan advisors who observed from a distance. Slowly, doubts began to fade, replaced by respect for the human ambassador who had once saved a princess and now acted with honor and insight in the present. Meanwhile, Serena's confidence grew. She realized that her memory of Elias was not a fleeting emotion but a guiding force. It reminded her that courage and integrity could transcend fear, suspicion, and political pressure. She began to see the potential for a stronger alliance between humans and Lithuans, founded not only on diplomacy, but also on mutual respect and shared values. Yet challenges remained. Outside the palace walls, rival factions plotted, wary of the growing influence of humans and the apparent favor shown to Elias. Some sought to undermine the princess, others to discredit the ambassador. The delicate balance of trust between the two species hung in the air, fragile and tense. But Serena and Elias were prepared. Their shared past and the recognition of courage and character gave them an advantage that no politics could easily undermine. They knew that the truth, though risky, was a foundation stronger than fear or deception, and they understood that the bond between a human and a Lithuan princess could become a symbol, a reminder that courage and integrity were qualities worth honoring, across species and across the galaxy. As the sun set over the Lithuan capital, casting long violet shadows across the city, Serena and Elias stood together on the balcony of her private chambers. The stars began to glimmer, distant and cold, yet full of possibility. "You have changed my perspective," Serena said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of sincerity. "Humans, you are more remarkable than I ever imagined. Your courage, your choices, they inspire hope." Elias smiled faintly. "And you've shown me that even in a world full of politics and uncertainty, integrity and courage can guide us. We may come from different worlds, but our values, they can align." For a moment, the galaxy felt still, as if acknowledging the significance of their reunion. The past had returned. The truth was revealed and a foundation was laid, not just for a personal bond, but for the potential of unity between species. And yet, the journey was far from over. The galaxy was vast and challenges waited in the shadows. But Elias and Serena faced the future with clarity, their trust in one another unwavering. They knew that the courage of one human, remembered across years and light years, had the power to change not only a life but perhaps an entire world. The Lithuan Empire was a place of beauty, brilliance, and unspoken tension. Its crystal towers reflected the sunlight in a million colors, yet behind the shining facades, whispers of distrust moved like shadows through the palace halls. Princess Serena and Captain Elias Ward had begun to build a quiet alliance, grounded in trust and the shared history of a rescue from years ago. But not everyone welcomed this connection. Rumors began to circulate, subtle but dangerous. Some nobles murmured about favoritism, suggesting that Serena allowed personal feelings to interfere with her duties. Others whispered about the human ambassador, claiming he sought influence over the empire. These voices, though small at first, began to gather momentum. Their timing was deliberate, intended to sow fear and suspicion among the council. Serena felt the weight of these rumors pressing down on her. She had always known that leadership required balance, and that perception could be as powerful as reality. But she could not deny the truth. Elias had saved her once, and now, his wisdom and courage proved invaluable to the present. She refused to let fear dictate her actions. One evening, as the palace lights shimmered across the violet sky, Serena and Elias convened in a private strategy room. The room was modest, with soft glowing panels and simple furnishings, a contrast to the grandeur outside. "We have allies," Serena said quietly. "But we also have enemies within our own court. Some see your presence as a threat, Captain Ward." Elias nodded, his expression calm but determined. "I understand. Politics can be tricky, but we cannot let fear or suspicion stop us from doing what is right. We must focus on the larger challenges, not just the whispers in the palace." Serena studied him, her violet eyes reflecting a mixture of admiration and concern. "And what is our larger challenge?" she asked softly. Elias leaned forward. There are forces outside this palace, mercenary groups, rogue factions, and those who profit from instability. They may see the rumors within the council as an opportunity to act. We must be ready. Her gaze sharpened. You mean an attack? Elias shook his head. Not necessarily a direct attack, but a plan to weaken us, to make humans appear as manipulators, and to cast doubt on your decisions. We must anticipate their moves. As they spoke, the first signs of danger began to manifest. A courier arrived with a message marked by the symbol of a secretive Lithuan house known for its covert influence. Serena recognized the insignia immediately, a subtle warning, a reminder that someone was watching closely. This message is not a simple communication, she said, examining the parchment. It implies that you, Captain Ward, are being watched, and that anyone who stands with you may also be at risk. Elias took the message, scanning it carefully. They are testing us, he said. They want to see how we react. That is their advantage. We must remain calm and deliberate. Panic will only give them power. Serena nodded. Then we must act wisely. But we cannot do it alone. We need to know whom we can trust. In the following days, the palace became a place of quiet vigilance. Serena and Elias met often, discussing strategies and observing the movements of those around them. They discovered subtle signs of a conspiracy, a hidden network within the court that sought to challenge both the princess and the ambassador. The conspirators were careful, leaving no direct evidence, but their intentions were clear in the patterns of their actions. One night, as they walked along the balcony overlooking the city, Serena spoke with determination. They may have numbers, resources, and influence, she said, but we have something they cannot anticipate: knowledge, courage, and trust. We will prepare, Elias smiled faintly. And humans have one more advantage, he said. We adapt. We find solutions when others hesitate. We do not give up easily. As if to test them, the conspirators made their first move. A group of saboteurs attempted to infiltrate the human embassy ship under cover of darkness, intending to gather sensitive information and create chaos. The attempt failed, not because of overwhelming security, but because of human ingenuity and foresight. Elias had anticipated the possibility and implemented measures that caught the intruders without endangering anyone. Serena witnessed the aftermath with a mixture of awe and relief. She realized that Elias's courage and quick thinking were not limited to the battlefield of years past. They were alive in the present, shaping outcomes and protecting lives. This is exactly what I feared, she said, but also what I hoped. Humans, you think differently. You act when others hesitate. That is why you are remarkable. Elias shrugged modestly. We do what we must. And sometimes the right choice is not the obvious one. The same way I saved you all those years ago, I will act when it matters now. The attempted infiltration marked a turning point. Both Serena and Elias understood that the conspiracy within the palace was serious. They could no longer rely on secrecy or quiet observation alone. Preparation was necessary, and trust in one another became their greatest asset. They began to train together in the palace's secure chambers. Elias shared human strategies for defense, improvisation, and quick decision-making. Serena, in turn, taught him about the intricate political landscape, the subtleties of Lithuan customs, and the importance of perception in maintaining authority. Their collaboration strengthened their bond and highlighted the unique strengths of both humans and Lutherans. As days passed, reports came from beyond the palace. The mercenary faction that had once kidnapped Serena was re-emerging, armed with advanced technology and seeking to destabilize the region. The threat was greater than any within the court. Now the challenge was no longer only political. It was a test of courage, skill, and resourcefulness on a larger scale. Elias and Serena realized that the coming confrontation would require careful planning. It would demand not only military strategy, but also the ability to inspire loyalty and coordination among diverse allies. The human ambassador and the Lithuan princess prepared for the challenge with focus, determination, and a growing sense of shared purpose. One evening, as they reviewed the latest intelligence, Serena spoke with resolve. The conspirators within the palace and the mercenaries beyond it may think they can control the outcome, but they underestimate one thing: the human spirit. Elias nodded. And they underestimate the courage of those willing to stand together across worlds against fear and uncertainty. We may be different, but together we can be stronger than they expect. Their words were not merely expressions of hope. They were commitments. Both understood that the coming events would test them in ways neither could predict. Yet they faced the future with clarity, ready to defend their people, their honor, and the bond that had begun so long ago. As night fell over the Lithuan capital, the stars above shimmered like distant beacons. The city glowed in violet and silver, serene from a distance but alive with tension and preparation. Serena and Elias stood side by side on the balcony, gazing out at the galaxy that awaited them. "We are ready," Serena said quietly, "not just for them but for what is right, and for what we can accomplish together." Elias smiled, a sense of calm determination settling over him. "Then let them come. We will face it and we will prevail, not just because of force, but because of courage, intelligence, and the will to do what is right." The palace lights reflected in the distance, and the galaxy beyond promised both challenge and opportunity. For the first time in years, Serena and Elias felt the weight of history and the thrill of potential. The coming days would test them, but their trust, courage, and determination would guide them forward. The Empire may have struck first with whispers and intrigue, but Elias and Serena were prepared. And the galaxy would soon see the extraordinary power of two individuals who dared to act with integrity, intelligence, and unwavering courage. The moon of Dravara hung in the sky like a pale sentinel, its surface jagged and barren. From orbit, the Lithuan fleet glimmered against the darkness, while human ships moved with precise coordination, forming a protective barrier around the planet below. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge of the lead human ship, his eyes scanning the vast expanse of space ahead. The sense of anticipation was tangible. The mercenary faction that had once kidnapped Princess Serena had returned, more organized and dangerous than before, armed with technology forbidden in many parts of the galaxy. Beside him, Princess Serena observed the preparations calmly, though her mind raced with strategy. She had always been trained for leadership, for moments when decisions could shape the fate of her people. But even she felt a shiver of respect for the human who had once saved her, now standing at her side, guiding their forces with insight and determination. "They are stronger than last time," she said, her voice steady. "Their weapons are advanced and their numbers have increased. We must be careful," Elias nodded. "Careful, yes, but not hesitant. They will not anticipate our strategy if we act with ingenuity. Remember, humans adapt. We use our minds as much as our skills." The plan was simple in concept but demanding in execution. While Lithuan fleets engaged the mercenaries in direct combat, Elias and a specialized team of human operatives would infiltrate the enemy's base on Dravara to disable their primary weapon, a device capable of destroying ships from orbit. The mission was dangerous, but it relied not on brute force, but on problem-solving courage and adaptability. Serena joined the humans in their briefing room, studying the maps and layouts with sharp focus. "You saved my life once, Elias," she said quietly, "and now I trust you to guide us again. I know you will find a way." Elias allowed himself a small smile. "I hope so. But this is not about one person. It's about teamwork. We combine what humans do best with what Lithuans do best. Together, we can overcome them." Hours later, under the cloak of darkness, the strike team descended to Dravara's surface. The barren landscape stretched endlessly, dotted with jagged rocks and deep craters. The enemy's facility loomed ahead, its dark towers bristling with energy weapons and guarded pathways. Every movement required caution. Every step demanded precision. Elias led the team with a quiet confidence. He navigated through patrols and security systems, using tools and tactics that leveraged human adaptability. Where sensors detected movement, he improvised distractions. Where paths were blocked, he found alternatives. Every action was calculated yet flexible, responding to challenges in real time. Serena followed closely, not as a passive observer, but as an active participant. She coordinated with her Lithuan allies, providing intelligence and strategic input. Together, human ingenuity and Lithuan resources formed a seamless partnership. Inside the facility, the team faced the heart of the enemy's operation, the control chamber for the orbital weapon. It was a complex network of energy cores, control panels, and security barriers. Elias paused to assess the situation, considering every possibility. "This is not just a test of strength," he said softly to his team. "It's a test of thinking. We must use our minds as much as our hands. Be patient. Be precise. With careful movements, they disabled security systems, bypassed traps, and worked to shut down the weapon. It required a combination of technical skill and ingenuity that only humans could provide. An ability to adapt under pressure, to improvise solutions when conventional methods failed. One by one, the energy cores dimmed, the hum of the weapon fading as it lost power. Outside, the Lithuan fleet held the mercenary forces at bay, preventing reinforcements from reaching the facility. The coordination between human and Lithuan forces was seamless, a testament to the growing trust and shared understanding between the species. As the final core shut down, alarms blared through the facility. The mercenary leader realized their weapon had been neutralized. Panic spread among the ranks, and the human-Lithuan alliance seized the opportunity. The enemy retreated, their advance thwarted not by overwhelming firepower, but by the combination of strategy, courage, and adaptability. Elias allowed himself a moment to breathe, knowing that their mission had succeeded. Beside him, Serena's eyes reflected both relief and admiration. "You did it," she said softly. "Just as you did years ago. Not with strength alone, but with determination and intelligence." Elias shook his head modestly. "It wasn't just me. It was all of us. Humans, Lutherans working together. That's how we succeeded. Courage and quick thinking are important, but teamwork is what makes victory possible." The two of them walked out onto the surface of Dravara, looking up at the stars. The battle had ended, the mercenary threat neutralized, and the galaxy had witnessed something remarkable. Humans, often underestimated, had demonstrated the power of ingenuity, courage, and perseverance. Serena turned to Elias, her expression both proud and thoughtful. "I have seen it now," she said quietly. "Humans are extraordinary. You saved my life once, and you have guided us to victory again. Your determination, your mind, your spirit, it is what sets your species apart." Elias felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The galaxy was vast, full of civilizations and challenges, yet this moment proved something essential. Humanity, though often seen as small and fragile, could make a difference. The combination of courage, intelligence, and adaptability created a force capable of shaping outcomes beyond expectation. Back aboard the human embassy ship, celebrations were muted but sincere. Reports of the victory spread quickly through the Lithuan Empire and to distant human worlds. Diplomats and soldiers alike acknowledged the significance of the event, not as a triumph of one species over another, but as proof of what could be accomplished when courage, skill, and determination were applied wisely. Serena addressed her people from the palace balcony, speaking with clarity and conviction. "Today we have witnessed an extraordinary event. A human, Captain Elias Ward, whose actions years ago saved my life, has once again demonstrated the power of courage and ingenuity. His example reminds us that strength is not measured only in weapons or numbers, but in determination, intelligence, and the will to do what is right." The crowd below cheered, not only for the victory but for the symbol it represented. Humans and Lutherans could work together, trust one another, and achieve remarkable things when guided by integrity and courage. Later, in the quiet of the evening, Serena and Elias stood together on a terrace overlooking the city. The moonlight shimmered on the crystal towers and the stars above reflected in their eyes. "You have shown me something important," Serena said softly. "Not just about humans, but about what is possible when trust and courage are combined. You are not only a hero, Elias, you are a symbol of hope." Elias smiled, feeling a rare sense of peace. "And you, Princess, have shown me that leadership and courage are not limited to warriors or soldiers. You inspire loyalty, respect, and determination in those around you. Together we have proven that humans and Lutherans can accomplish extraordinary things." For a moment the galaxy seemed still, as if acknowledging the significance of what had been achieved. The past, the rescue years ago, had led to this moment. Courage, intelligence, and trust had created a bridge across species, across worlds, and across time. And in that quiet night, the bond between a human and a Lithuan princess was stronger than ever. The galaxy had seen the light of humanity, not as conquerors, but as protectors, thinkers, and courageous allies. Their actions became a story told across planets, a story of bravery, ingenuity, and the unshakable human spirit. The stars above twinkled, distant, but full of promise. The challenges of the galaxy were far from over, but Elias and Serena knew they had faced one of the greatest tests together, and succeeded. They had shown that even in the darkest moments, courage, intelligence, and determination could illuminate a path forward. As the city slept under the moon's gentle glow, they looked at each other and nodded, understanding without words that this was only the beginning. Together, they could face any challenge, overcome any obstacle, and inspire others across the galaxy. The night was calm, the stars bright, and the future filled with possibility. Humanity's light had shone, and it would continue to shine, undaunted, adaptable, and brilliant in its courage.